Welcome to Business Talk, presented in collaboration with the University of Rio Grande and the Ohio State University South Centers, from the heart of southeastern Ohio at the University of Rio Grande TV studio. Our goals are simple: promote the University of Rio Grande and the Ohio State University South Centers, as well as advocate local small business and their support organizations. More importantly, promote southeastern Ohio as a wonderful place to live, explore, and learn. There are many different ways you can find us. The University of Rio Grande Cable Access Channel 17, live online at blogtalkradio.com, and on YouTube if you are unable to catch our show live. Introducing our co-hosts, Jason Winters, Mike Thompson, Patrick Dengel. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome to Business Talk. Boy, Pat, after a nice spring break, it sure is good to be back in class this week.
I know what you mean. We have had quite a winter, quite a season in which there is a lot of snow.
You said that as had.
Well,
does that mean the winter's over?
That's right, because today is spring day. Is it not the first day of spring?
I think you're correct.
That is right. And so
How's the 21st? But okay.
It's tomorrow, isn't it? You're right, tomorrow.
Close
someday.
I'm hearing an echo. Is that in our mics?
How's that?
Much better.
Okay.
Much better.
But anyway, it's really good to be there because we've had an interesting winter and we've had an interesting Christmas.
Is that supposed to be my lead-in? We're talking about Christmas. We're going to go to Christmas tree ornaments?
Yes.
That was a flash.
Yeah. Not sure what that was about. There's stuff going on in here. There's spooks.
This is an interesting day. Today, folks, if you're listening to us and you're in the Rio Grande area, you're probably wondering why we're not responding to the tornado drill that's going on outside. If you're in Jackson and listen to us, you have no idea why we're acting funny. The university is conducting a tornado drill, so we've got sirens going off in the background. We got lights that are flickering. It's an interesting day.
And maybe it's our guest that we're going to feature today. Maybe he's the one that's doing all of this.
It's real possible. Pat, we're kind of having a throwback here. We were reminiscing over lunch, and I got to thinking it's been since 2007, which is about 7 years ago, that I first met our guest today.
That was when there was your first class and doing the MBA.
It was, well, actually, it was before that. We just finished developing our new MBA program in entrepreneurship. I was working as a recruiter at that point to bring in students to our program, and I had made trips down to Portsmouth, to Jackson, to other areas, and talked with local businesses. And I ran across this one individual, and he said, I want to go back and get my MBA, and this is really interesting. It's in entrepreneurship, and I'm a little bit of an entrepreneur, he said. I remember that, a little bit of an entrepreneur. But how in the world can you be a little bit of an entrepreneur? And I said, so tell me about what you do. And Danny said, I make ornaments. I said, you do what? I make Christmas tree ornaments. I said, that's your business? Yeah, I make Christmas tree ornaments. I sell Christmas tree ornaments. Danny and I made a real connection at that point. He came to class. He was the first one with an idea of a business. He knew what he wanted to been doing. He'd been doing it for his whole life, and he could tell the story about how his grandma got him interested in it. But I met Dan Stevens then, and it's been a pleasure knowing him ever since. We went through the program together. I graduated a year before he did out of the program, and then I actually ended up teaching one of the courses that he was in to graduate. So we worked with him. He was actually a part of the OSU South Center's business plan competition at one point.
That's how I met Dan.
And so Dan's been involved with all of us a little bit. And so it's a pleasure of mine to have with me today Dan Stevens. Dan, welcome to Business Talk.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, how's it feel to be back on campus? Is that what that is, all
yeah,
clear?
Yeah, that's the all clear signal.
Well, as long as we don't get blew away by a tornado, it feels pretty good. I really miss coming up here every Monday night and sitting through class and miss all the kids, and that's a really good time. Actually, the program, I feel like the program was partly responsible for me quitting my 9-to-5 job and actually going full-time with this, because each week it kind of forced me to think about business decisions and, do the right thing, go in
Sure.
the right direction. So real happy to have graduated from it and learned quite a bit when I was in there.
Pat, over lunch we were going down memory lane and we were talking about some of the different students that were in the program and what are they doing now and where are they now, and it was really interesting how far some of our graduates have gone.
Yeah.
Well, if Dan is an example of your MBA classes, all the power to you, because he has a very unique business. As we had said, he was involved with the Ohio State University business plan competition. You placed first in a regional area.
Yes.
And I can still remember him bringing his cart, and as he's talking, he's doing well. Tell us what do you do?
Well, I make me and my mother still make personalized ornaments, and basically she started making them back in the early 80s, late 70s out of bread. So we used to take the Ford pickup to Betsy Ross and get day-old bread for 20 cents a loaf, and we'd load it down. And so we'd come home, and my grandmother was ill in a bed, but she had really strong hands. And so her job was to mix up the bread in the Elmer's glue. And after you do that, once it comes off your hands, then it's ready to process. So, but I look back and think about how she used to make those out of bread, and I don't know how she did it, because you would have to let the bread cure for a month, and then you would shape it out, and then you had to flip it every other day for another month, and then of course you have to paint them. So it just blows my mind to think about how many she made back then.
Well, we went on your website that you have, bigcountryfamilytrees.com, and it shows some of the different designs that you have, and what you're talking about. First of all, in the back there's a big Christmas tree. When we say a Christmas tree, maybe it's
5 inches tall.
5 inches tall, and then you have little people. Little faces.
Yes.
Little faces, and that's what we're talking about, is how your grandmother would make those little faces.
Yeah, the trees. My mom actually made the faces, and they were made out of bread as well. Later on, we switched to clay, and it was an all clay product. Well, those were kind of heavy, and plus clay got quite expensive. So today we make the trees out of wood, and the faces are still made out of clay. So, but I've had to think about ways to lower the cost, so we make them a little smaller now.
And I noticed that it has names on here. You know, Mike, you have a lot of relatives. It would be good to have, I see one extra large Christmas tree with what, about 15, 20 faces on
Probably
there?
30 on that one.
30 on that. And it's my understanding that when you go to festivals, or if I'm interested in purchasing, you ask me the names, and then you very carefully write those names on here. Here we have Baby's First Christmas, Our First Christmas, 2 people, and here we have Grandma's Gang.
I have my family tree that hangs on my Christmas tree every year. Dan had made one with the boys' names on it, and awesome. Tracy and I, and I've got one that's got Ohio State football helmets on it.
And what year was that?
I knew you were going to ask that.
See,
I'm going to say it was 08, 09?
Before the turn of the century.
09 is when you graduated with your degree, right?
Yes.
Because I graduated, it might have even been in 07, while we were still in school.
Now I'm sitting here wondering why you don't have one every year. I need to.
Well, that's because you disappeared. This is the first time I've seen you in years.
Yeah, I've been off the grid for quite a while. So.
Actually, when it starts, about May or June, you visit various different festivals. So you load up your van, you go to...
Actually, next month I've got a show in Summerville, South Carolina. I'm going to do the swap meet at Ross County, which is new this year. They switched it from Sauter County to Ross County, and maybe the Maple Festival.
So while we're all enjoying the weekends,
I'm out working.
You're out working. I think that's great.
Well, they say it's working, but I don't feel like it's working.
Now, do you still do the Bob Evans Farm Fest?
Yes. Actually, 2 years ago, I won 3rd place on my booth design, so I set up for free that year. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
Always shooting to win that, so you can get free booth rental.
And so what you do is you set up. You have some unique and interesting marketing tools in promoting your product, and because when you're with other vendors at a show, you have to sort of get the word out. And so, what are some possible ways in which you market your business at a festival?
Well, one thing I do is I put the website information on the back of the ornament, because a lot of people buy one and they'll take it home and give it to Aunt Susie, and Aunt Susie will, oh, I want one of these for my cousin or something. So I do that.
Now, where did you get the idea for that?
I got that from the actually your class. So yeah, that's a great.
We'll just throw that plug out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the little things that really.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. If you those little things.
And I used to do a mass mailing, but with stamps at 47 cents. Mm-hmm. I've kind of backed away from that. But I do a flyer. Everybody gets a flyer at a show. If you don't happen to order today, you can order later. Most people will go ahead and order, but they'll take a flyer and then order some later on.
And what about the plastic bags? Was that did that come from Jason also?
Actually, we used to use brown paper sacks, and we would write the names on the sacks, and then I would give them the sack. But that got to be a little bit more. I used to package these things, but that just adds to the cost, and I'm trying to keep it. We haven't raised prices for a few years, so I want to try to keep the prices to where they're reasonable, and so we don't really have packaging, but I will use sandwich sacks sometimes, or I'll save my Kroger bags, or I'll have other people save them and use those, whatever I can find actually.
But as people are walking by, it's a clear plastic.
Yes, yeah, the clear plastic. If we put them in those, they'll walk around the show and people will see them and they'll say, "Hey, where'd you get that?" And they'll
So the
point us out.
Ziploc baggies.
Pretty much, yeah.
So you're not only a salesperson, you're also the manufacturing. You're the producer. You're the buyer, the seller. Do you have time for anything else?
Well, you would think it wouldn't take out much time to set shows up, but when you do 45 a year, it seems like it's taking a lot more time than it should. So I do everything from production to sales to marketing. My mother still does. She does the Apple Festival down in Kentucky. She's done that for probably 30 years. But she still helps me with the manufacturing.
So in other words, he's a little bit of an entrepreneur.
Yeah, a little bit of an entrepreneur. That's true.
Well, he was telling
Like a
me
little bit of pregnant, right?
Yeah, a little bit pregnant.
he was telling me that there's certain designs or certain things that he makes has different colors on it. It's like little colored beads, and he hand paints those colored beads. And I said, when do you have time? He said, well, during downtime at shows, he's there.
Yeah, especially state fairs, because you're not selling all day to state fair. You got 12 hours you'll sell some, and then you can. But I'm working constantly all day, and that kind of helps with people that walk up. They see you producing them. They kind of, because it's kind of a niche market. A lot of people like the handmade stuff, and it kind of helps to demonstrate it.
So he's also kind of an artist.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's a funny story. One of the reasons that helped me quit my 9-to-5 was to spend more time with my kids. So I was able to take my youngest son to Chicago last year for a show, and he was 4 at the time. And I had to go use the restroom, so I said, "Son, you sit up here in a stool and talk to people when they come up." So he would say, "Here's for big families, here's for small families," So I get back to the booth, and there's a couple ladies in line, and they were like beside themselves. They said, "I've got to buy one of these." And I said, "Okay." She goes, "Your son told us you were a famous artist." So yeah, a little bit of an artist.
Well,
And he's kind of against child labor laws.
Yeah, and I didn't put him up to that, by the way. So.
Well, yeah, and children we know, especially 4-year-olds, always speak the truth.
Yes.
They speak from what they have observed, etc. So So is that all you do, is just the Christmas tree designs?
I'm starting to get into some other stuff, especially with the schools. Football ornaments, special fundraising ornaments, Jeep, South Webster Jeep ornament. That was the first school I did a fundraiser with, and it was kind of funny because last year at the Indiana State Fair, I had this Jeep ornament, and then if you don't know what a Jeep is, it's the cartoon character off Popeye.
And it's also the cart that you push around during cleanup or things of that nature for the lunch time. That's called a Jeep.
Well, this is the Jeep, the cartoon character of Popeye. So I had it set up in the back of my booth at the Indiana State Fair. A lady walks up and she said, "Why do you have a Jeep ornament?" I said, "Well, I just want to show you I can do different cutouts, different mascots, and do school fundraising." And I told her, I said, "There's only one other school in the country with that as a mascot." And she says, "I know, it's my school." And so I'm working with them, but their Jeep is a blue Jeep, so it's a little different. It's kind of hard to get used to a blue Jeep.
Huh.
Ours is red, so.
And when you cut out the different pieces, now let's, is it still made out of clay, the pieces, or is it made out of?
The faces are made out of clay, yes, and it's a 3-part process. So I got 3 colors of clay that whether I'm doing a black hat or a red hat or a blue hat, I have to form the clay and then push them together, and then we bake them for 20 minutes. So
you cut those out. So they're sort of flat heads.
Yeah, with some depth to them.
And then you put on the eyes. And about how many of these do you make a year?
Oh, I would say I'm probably making about 50,000 of those little faces.
50,000. Yeah. Wow. My hat goes out for you.
Yeah.
And then, do you have some kind of special tools that also cut out the wood for the trees?
The wood is a little different. Some of the wood we hand cut, some of it I laser. But the tooling on the faces I've had to create myself. So instead of punching out one, one of the pieces I can punch out multiple. The top piece is still one little piece at a time,
But you said you used a laser?
Yeah, we got. I can cut about 200 inches per minute with some of the tooling I got.
So that's computer controlled laser.
Yes. Of course, you got to push in the design and all that good stuff, and then once you do that, you're pretty well set up. And as far as material goes, I try to find used material as much as possible, but that's kind of getting harder to find. So sometimes I have to go buy wood, which I hate doing.
Well, I understand, but 50,000.
Yeah,
wow.
That's a lot of pieces.
Yeah. And so the obviously the background trees are not 50,000, but
so if you're looking at 50,000 little pieces, then you got 100,000 little dots.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's just for the white, and then you got 100,000 little black dots. And it's a
understand.
lot of.
Yeah.
So I kind of got to put myself on a schedule. So if we can hurry up, I got to go get back to work.
He's also a little bit of a comedian. I have to tell some stories. When everything got too serious in college and our evening classes, I'll back up. Our MBA classes, we first started, we ran on Monday evenings, as he was talking about. Well, we had 2 3-hour classes that were back to back. So we ran a 6 to 9 and a 9 to midnight.
Wow. You can get a little giddy at that time, couldn't you?
Well, when things got a little too tense, we just talked to Dan. Dan has stories, and we've heard everything from his family, stories about grandma. We can't go into it. I'm not allowed to laugh yet.
Well, I know that you have to have a certain kind of personality to be able to talk at different festivals with so many hundreds of people. And that's one of the tricks. Care to share a couple tips to other individuals wanting to do festivals? Like, for instance, you can't sit back.
Hey, you can't sit back. Although my mother does. She sits back and she sells just as many as I do. But maybe it's because she's been doing it for so long, and people I actually was towed. My car was towed once in Kentucky. Actually, I was in another state, And I got to talking to the guy that was towing my car, and I told him what I did. And he said, well, I buy that kind of stuff down in Paintsville, Kentucky every year. Well, that was actually my mother selling him stuff. So, I mean, she sold a lot of them. But you kind of do got to talk to people, because if you got new stuff and you want to push it, you only get about 3 seconds. I mean, somebody's walking by your booth. If you don't get their attention, you'll never see them again. They're gone. So I want to at least tell everybody what it is so they can make a 2-second decision. Yeah, I'd like to have one, or no, I don't want one. If you want one, great. Let's get your names down on this paper, and 30 seconds, I can have you on your way. And I hate when they just stop and look for 6 hours and don't really buy nothing. So yeah, there's some tricks.
Yeah, but on the same token, part of that selling is really getting out and not being afraid to approach someone.
Right.
And you've always been a very personable individual that can strike up a conversation with just about anyone.
And it's kind of cool whenever you do talk to someone that's walking by that you, in your mind, you're like, they're not buying, they're walking so fast, but you get them to stop and then ultimately buy. I feel like that's in the $10 more I wouldn't have had. So
that's right. That is great. Well, what has been the best festival, and perhaps if you care to share, what has been?
Circleville Pumpkin Show has always been pretty good. It's probably my best festival, and it's a 4-day show. I got a good one out in Indiana. That's Indiana Gift and Hobby. It's pretty good. Most of them have been decent. I've only had a few that I wouldn't go back to. So
Now, do you suppose the pumpkin show has anything to do with the time of year? You're getting into the fall. You're starting to think about Christmas,
or maybe you just like pumpkin.
Well, there's somewhere between 500,000 and 600,000 people. So, if I can hit 1% of that population, I'm pretty good. Now, some of the other shows I do, 10,000 people. But time of year does have something to do with it. People do buy more in the fall. Although I do a really good show in June up in Troy, Ohio. It's a strawberry festival. So that's kind of opened me up to thinking, well, if I can do a show in June, why not April? Why not May?
Well, June is getting ready for
Yeah.
Christmas in July.
Yeah. But I kind of I don't really market these as ornaments. I market them as family trees. So it's kind of a snapshot of your family for this year. That's why you need one. You haven't had one in 6 years.
I haven't had any more kids.
All right.
I
We need a
quit.
different
I
style.
thought you had a whole bunch of kids.
I have a whole bunch of kids, but I don't want a bunch of goats. You wouldn't have a tree big enough for all the goats that are born on my farm.
Actually, I would. And this, I think, is why.
The gauntlet has been laid down.
Yeah, I think this is probably what sets me apart from all those ornaments you can buy from foreign countries. I make ornaments any size. The biggest one I've ever made has had 205 people on it, and it stands about 3 foot tall. So any size, I'll make an ornament. Doesn't matter what size.
We probably had over 1,000 kids born on the farm, so
And did you name all of them? You'd have to name them.
but they've all got a number.
Number one, so I could
got you.
see on your tree there would be.
Number 600.
So did your family have a problem or question about when you quit your job? They say, you're going to end up living in a van down by the river.
It was a tough decision. I mean,
Yeah.
especially for my wife. But
Well, what were you doing?
I was working at the counseling center, and I ran a T-shirt shop that they had, and it was honestly a great place to work. But there were some funding changes, and everyone's job was changed. And it just happened to be a perfect time for me to follow this dream of going in business for myself.
So you have been doing this part-time since 1997, almost.
Yeah, maybe even before that.
And then it really started picking up before, right, during the MBA program?
Yeah, during. And you guys that's been in business before, you kind of almost feel like if you want to make the same amount of money this year as you did last year, you almost have to do
20%.
a couple more shows or a
That's
couple
right.
more days' work.
That's
or,
right.
I don't know why that is. maybe explain
Yeah,
that.
at some point you run out of time.
Yeah. And at that point, I'm not really ready. I think I got a decent Shark Tank idea. I'm just not ready to take that 40% hit.
Well, do you feel that it's that you have such a unique product and it's such a niche market in a way? But is it because of your sales skills abilities? Is it because of the product itself? Is it because of your time management?
Well, I think it's a good product. For example, my mom sits back and people buy it, sells itself with her. And I step forward and it sells. So I think it's a good product. I want to continue to challenge myself on how to get it out to more people. And I got to do a better job at someone that ordered 1997. Why am I not still selling to those people? I got to do a better job at keeping those customers, which usually with the flyers, I've seen some come back every year for years, but I can still do a better job. Yeah, but it's a combination to answer your question. I don't think it's a great product. People, hopefully we're getting back to some of that handmade stuff in this country. I mean, especially in this area, people got to be creative in how they make a living sometimes because there's not a lot of jobs.
Or there's not a lot of jobs you thoroughly enjoy doing.
Right.
Because anyone can almost wash dishes.
Right. And I've done that. I've done construction. I've been in schools. I work with one of my most favorite jobs had something to do with Rio here, the Ohio Appalachian Center for Higher Education. I ran a roadmap program and worked with kids from 7th grade until they graduated. But I do feel like you got to be creative in this area.
Yeah, and I know Jason and Mike have thoroughly enjoyed 2 or 3 part-time businesses, and you ask them why, and they say, well, they really like doing it.
Yeah.
You love your goats, and you love your crematory. And Mike,
I'm being over enthusiastic, aren't I?
Yeah.
Woohoo.
but with the goats, that's all he does is talk about them. And I'm just joking too.
But like you mentioned, it's a lot of work, and there's times that every entrepreneur gets overwhelmed. I mean, they just when you're putting in 60, 70, even 80 hours a week, there are times you sit back and you think, what in the world am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. No, I understand what you're saying.
But what's those rewarding things that keep you going?
The rewarding thing is like taking my son to a show, or my daughter, or my or the extra time that I can spend with them instead of working 2 jobs. So that makes it all worth it.
And then I'm quite sure that when a customer is very satisfied and they reorder, I bet you that gives a pleasant feeling.
Oh, definitely.
That you've created something that wasn't, and they have something and they want more.
Yeah.
So Dan, we've only got about a minute and a half left. So is there anything else that you would like our customers to know? One thing I would like for you to share, how do people get a hold of you? If they're interested in this, website, phone number, local shows that you're going to be involved in here recently, share with us.
Do not go to my website. I repeat, do not visit my website. Okay? Call me. That's a horrible pitch, I understand. But I'm rethinking the idea of a website. I almost think you could go social media or go hook up on an existing website like Etsy, save money. Call me at 606-831-1687. And we can talk about school fundraising. We can talk about a festival, or if you just want to get some ornaments for your family. 606-831-1687.
And for what it's worth, I do like your website, but it does give you some of the pictures. I like the interaction that it has when you move. And if individuals want to see what Dan does, it's bigcountryfamilytrees.com. And again, Dan is one of those individuals that really loves to have someone phone call them. 606-831-1687.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share?
I think that's good. I think we wrapped it up here.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Jason.
I'm
Dan.
Mike. You're Dan and I'm Mike.
Thank
Thanks for watching.